Over the past decade, the global job market has been shifting quietly, but dramatically. Entry-level jobs, once considered the foundation of every career, are disappearing across industries, continents, and generations. This is not a short-term economic trend or a temporary slowdown. It is a structural transformation of how work begins, how talent grows, and how economies function. The story begins with a paradox. Around the world, there are more people with higher education than ever before. Yet for many of them, the path from graduation to employment has never been harder. In 2024, several major economies reported record numbers of job seekers holding university degrees. At the same time, the number of job listings open to entry-level candidates fell sharply. In the United States, job postings for new graduates declined by over 30% compared to the previous year. The United Kingdom saw similar declines, especially in law, finance, and professional services. In India, engineering and business graduates faced record underemployment, with surveys showing that more than half of graduates were working in jobs unrelated to their field. In Japan and South Korea, once known for stable lifetime employment, younger workers now face intense competition even for contract or part-time positions. What's happening here is not isolated. It's global, and it's accelerating. The forces behind this change are complex, but they can be traced to three main factors: the rise of artificial intelligence, economic uncertainty, and corporate restructuring. Each of these pressures is reshaping how companies view talent, risk, and the value of early career employees. Artificial intelligence is the most visible factor. Since 2022, businesses have been experimenting with AI tools capable of automating tasks once handled by junior employees. In law firms, AI can now review thousands of documents in seconds. In accounting, it can analyze financial statements and flag anomalies automatically. In marketing, it can generate campaign ideas, write copy, and even design visuals. These were all tasks that used to train these staff, teaching them the fundamentals of their profession. Now, AI does the work faster, cheaper, and without the need for mentorship or supervision. This shift has created a silent training crisis. When entry-level jobs vanish, so do the learning opportunities that build the next generation of experts. A report from Deloitte in 2024 warned that companies cutting too deeply at the junior level risked creating a missing middle of skilled professionals within the next decade. Without young workers gaining experience today, there will be no seasoned managers tomorrow. In law, this problem is already visible. Many large firms have reduced trainee intake, relying instead on technology to handle routine tasks. But partners now worrying about the long-term impact. If fewer junior associates are trained, who will eventually replace the senior lawyers? The same pattern appears in accounting, consulting, journalism, and even software development. Automation has always replaced some forms of work, but artificial intelligence accelerates this replacement in ways that affect knowledge workers directly. The jobs being replaced are not only manual or routine, but also analytical, administrative, and creative. Economic uncertainty adds another layer of pressure. Inflation, political instability, and slowing growth make companies cautious. Instead of investing in new hires, they prefer to consolidate existing teams. Surveys show that global employers expect lower hiring levels in 2025 compared to previous years, particularly at the entry level. In the United States, employers report cutting graduate programs to reduce costs. In the European Union, firms face stricter labor rules and higher payroll taxes, which make hiring inexperienced workers less attractive. In Asia, automation and outsourcing are being used to offset wage growth. In Africa and Latin America, youth populations are expanding rapidly, but formal job creation cannot keep pace. The result is a generation facing longer job searches, lower starting salaries, and higher competition for every available position. The economic effects go beyond individuals. Entry-level jobs play a vital role in maintaining workforce mobility and productivity. When they disappear, entire labor markets slow down. Without new entrants, innovation declines, succession planning weakens, and inequality deepens. In the past, industries like manufacturing, retail, and services provided millions of first-time opportunities for young workers. These jobs taught discipline, teamwork, and customer interaction. Today, many of those roles are automated, outsourced, or converted into gig work. Even sectors once considered stable, such as healthcare administration and education, are seeing entry-level reductions. Technology firms provide a clear example of this shift. In 2021 and 2022, big tech companies were hiring aggressively. By 2024, that changed. After massive layoffs and restructuring, firms like Google, Meta, and Amazon adopted a leaner approach. They now focus on highly specialized hires rather than broad entry-level intakes. At the same time, startups that once offered opportunities to new graduates are struggling to raise funding in a higher interest rate environment. This has limited their capacity to train and employ inexperienced staff. The transformation is visible across continents. In Europe, the problem intersects with demographics. Many countries face aging populations and shrinking workforces. Yet despite a shortage of skilled labor, entry-level positions are not expanding. The mismatch arises because companies want fully qualified workers who can be productive immediately. Training is seen as a cost, not an investment. In Asia, automation is advancing rapidly. In Japan, robots are used not only in factories but also in offices. In China, AI-driven systems are replacing junior analysts, customer service agents, and translators. In India, where millions of graduates enter the job market each year, the challenge is particularly severe. Surveys show that only about 1 in 5 graduates finds employment matching their education level. In Africa, the youth population is booming. The continent's labor force is expected to double by 2050. Yet most economies still rely on informal work, and formal sectors are too small to absorb new entrants. Without significant investment in education and infrastructure, millions of young Africans risk being excluded from stable employment altogether. Latin America faces a similar problem, with underemployment and informality dominating the job landscape. Economic volatility, political crises, and weak institutions have limited job creation for decades. The digital transformation, while promising, has so far benefited only a small segment of the population with access to technology and advanced skills. The decline in entry-level opportunities also reflects a cultural shift in how companies value experience. Modern recruitment algorithms often filter candidates automatically based on keywords, years of experience, or portfolio quality. This makes it harder for inexperienced applicants to pass through even the first screening stage. As a result, a paradox emerges. Young people are told they need experience to get a job, but they need a job to gain experience. Governments and educators are beginning to recognize this disconnect. Some countries have introduced incentives for companies to hire young workers. Germany, for example, continues to promote its dual education system, combining classroom study with on-the-job training. Singapore has expanded its Skills Future program, encouraging lifelong learning and employer-supported training. But these initiatives remain exceptions. In many countries, public policy still assumes that market forces will handle the transition. That assumption may no longer hold. Economists warn that if entry-level jobs continue to decline, long-term productivity could fall. Workers who never receive formal training or mentorship struggle to advance into higher-value roles. Over time, this leads to slower innovation and widening inequality. This pattern has already been observed in some developed economies. Data from the United Kingdom's Office for National Statistics shows that wage growth for workers under 30 has stagnated for nearly a decade. In the United States, the Federal Reserve reports that real wages for entry-level workers are barely above 2010 levels, adjusted for inflation. Meanwhile, the cost of education continues to rise. The result is a generation carrying record debt while facing fewer opportunities to repay it. The social implications are significant. When young people cannot find stable employment, they delay major life decisions such as marriage, home ownership, and starting families. This, in turn, affects economic demand, housing markets, and demographic trends. In countries like South Korea and Japan, low birth rates are already tied to employment insecurity. Similar trends are emerging in parts of Europe and North America. Some experts argue that artificial intelligence will eventually create new categories of work, just as previous technological revolutions did. But others caution that this transition could take decades. In the meantime, millions risk being excluded from stable employment pathways. The history of industrial revolutions shows that technology can destroy old jobs faster than it creates new ones. The key difference this time is speed. AI adoption is advancing much faster than most education systems can adapt. Universities still focus on traditional degrees, while employers demand hybrid skills combining technology, analysis, and communication. This gap between education and employment is now one of the defining challenges of the global economy. A few companies are trying to bridge it. Consulting firms like PwC and Accenture have launched internal academies to train young hires in data analysis, automation, and AI ethics. Tech giants like Microsoft and IBM offer free certification programs. Some governments are funding digital literacy campaigns.